Alrighty. We are live, mate. How you going?
Doing great. Glad to be down under.
Thanks, man. So Leumas is there's a bit of an echo. Leumas is joining us live in the studio. Uh it's it's unfinished though. Uh
But I like it.
yeah.
It's definitely already got a good feeling to it.
Mm,
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So how you enjoying down under, mate?
I've been enjoying it. It's been good. It's all right. I'll be honest. I started out with a little bit of food poisoning. Um that wasn't so fun, but once I got past that, which was some plain food which I would not normally eat, but I did. Uh you know what? I've been having a great time. It's just I like the countryside down here.
Mm,
Yeah. It's a good and the people are nice and yeah. Not my first trip here, so I know it better every time.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
awesome place.
Mm. Yeah, as I say, it's awesome to have you here, man. And the first podcast, official podcast in the new studio. It's been a work in progress. I know some of the guys and girls that are wondering about the studio. It's taking longer than expected. However, we're making sure we're doing it properly. However, when you were coming down, I couldn't help but have you in. So, what are we going to do, mate? We're going to talk about. Uh, we've got two things we want to talk about. One is the advanced age of civilization
Right.
and the megalithic stuff that surrounds that. The other one we'll leave till later. But
Yeah.
let's start there because I know. Well, in the last UTC episode, that was with you as well, man. So
Yeah.
we did the Australian and South Pacific. You're deep in the documentary. Where's all that at? Why don't you talk to us about that? Where's that?
All right. So the documentary, I'm giving a working name, and it possibly is the final name, Sacred Sight, as in sight with your eyes, and
Mhm.
it runs two different threads. One of them is finding these places that most people don't know about in the world that link to this lost ancient civilization.
Mhm.
And the other thread of it is just showing people the understanding of the cover up of this information, but it's going to bleed into what's happening in the world. So no
Mhm.
matter who leaves the documentary, they're going to be enlightened on stuff they never heard of before if they're into this whole megalithic ancient civilization, but they're also going to be enlightened in understanding where we're at in the world and what time it is, because I can't help but to trickle that in as well. So it's going to be sight with your eyes, as in sacred sight as well. So
Yeah.
it's anyway, it's I've gone quite a few places in the world for this, and this is my second to last spot to shoot a little bit of footage.
So yeah, we're going on a little mission tomorrow. I mean, I don't want to give the documentary away. I know you've been working very hard on it, but what's some of the takeaways? How is your how has your perception changed? Have you learned anything?
It's changed because I've realized that okay, so we live on a planet that has been through multiple cataclysms. Like we don't know a lot of things, but we know that there's so much more that's buried, and there's so much more on this planet that's hidden, that is in the wilderness, that we have no idea. There's so much, and it started to make me really look around at every landscape and second look at everything that is here, whether that's a hill or it's some kind of site that's buried. We have to start thinking that way. But it's also changed my perspective in that something like this can even come together.
Yeah.
So it was a very loose plan a couple of years ago, like because I came back from Egypt. I'm like, I'm going to make a documentary about
Mhm.
these sites I saw in Egypt. But I'm like, nah, and then as it just sort of evolved, and I realized I live in Hawaii and I have sites that no one knows about right in my backyard, basically. So
Mhm.
it just it evolved. So I guess what it taught me is how a project can really evolve, and the people that are involved in it now that I would have never guessed, including yourself.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow, this is coming together, and it's amazing how it's coming together.
Yeah. Look, the collaborations that we've done. I mean, what number is this? 6 or
I'm
7?
going to say this is 7.
7?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the collaborations that we've done it's there's so much to them, and you've helped my research unbelievably. I think it's one of those things where if I mean, how cool is it, right? You are here in Fernvale in Queensland from Hawaii.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, how do we encapsulate that? Like that's
Well, it's what's crazy to me to think is like, yeah, I see you on the screen and do podcasts with you. I'm like, yeah, there's that guy in that world over there.
yeah.
But to actually be here in this world is like, wow, it makes it much more real. I know it sounds kind of stupid, but like it makes it feel that like I know it's real. Like I know your world's real.
Yeah.
That's Australia really exists, but like coming actually to meet somebody in person that you've been talking to for a long time, there's an interest. It's just interesting how it all comes together.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
Kat said to me today. She's like, "Have you ever?" Oh, hello, Aurora.
Oh.
How you doing, sweetheart? Kat said to me today, "It's like, well, I've never met Leumas. I've never actually seen him from the chest up.
Right.
Like I've never seen you outside of that. And I think we do get stuck sometimes in the chaos and the craziness of technology and social media. But I think this is a really good example of how positive it can be.
Yeah.
Because neither of us, I can't even, who reached out to who? I don't even remember who reached out to who. I don't.
In the very beginning.
In the very beginning.
I'm going to have to give it to General Lee.
That is too, actually. I think it might have been the general.
Yeah.
It might have been the general.
He's like, you need to work with Triffin. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know. And then I don't even remember who contacted who though. I don't remember.
Too
far back.
Wonder how the general's going. We should probably reach out to. We need to do a bit of a more collaborative work with the general.
Sure. Yeah.
He's every now and again he seems to pop out stuff that it's sporadic, but there's like 4 or 5 episodes in a row with Subconscious Realm. So, but another very good eclectic show. Hey, Clinton, how are you, mate? Good to see you, man. The EDU, so Clinton, the EDU feed's not working, man. Can you share it to the other pages, please, brother? I did just try and share it to the EDU page, but it's not something with StreamYard. I'm going to blame Anthony because it's his it's his live stream. You said something in your little description earlier, about the ancient civilization stuff. So zooming out from some of the other questions, how many different epochs do you think were there? I mean, when we look at, say, the pyramids, Sacsayhuaman, Teotihuacan, like, out of all of that, how many different civilizations or how many different incarnations do you think we're looking at? The mound builders, you know what I mean? We try and lump it all in together.
Yeah.
But one of my thoughts recently has been, well, what if it's not lumped in together? What if it is echoes on echoes? You know what I mean?
I've thought that too, especially recently looking a lot into pyramids. I was thinking, I got on this track, but what if pyramids are really, before they were pyramids, were ziggurats?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, so if we just reference, most of the holy places, most of the churches are built on sacred ground.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
All right.
So it's like, was the Great Pyramid? Well, I think that is the story, isn't it? That the Great Pyramid of Giza is actually, there was a mound underneath that was built on it, I think. Don't quote me on that one.
I'm not sure about that.
No.
But
I know the Mexican stuff is, isn't it? Like they're like layers, like pyramids on pyramids on pyramids.
Yeah, I don't know about that either, to be honest. I think the Cholula pyramid in Mexico, which is the oldest, or who knows, even they say the oldest.
Yeah. Pyramid, what does that mean?
Right. Where they really know, but it's still halfway buried. There are different layers to it, but I couldn't tell you because I haven't been. Yeah, I don't know. I don't.
That's not your part. That's not your.
Yeah.
So we actually when we were talking over dinner about Sacsayhuaman, and you went there and you've stood in the massive polygonal masonry Is it like, it looks like it's like, is it rows? Is it like steps, or how does that, what does it even, what's that like, man?
So the bottom layer are the biggest stones, and they're huge, and they're stacked up on each other very neatly and precise. You couldn't fit your driver's license in between the blocks,
Mhm.
and it's almost like they're melted into each other, like marshmallow, just smashed together. Almost like the stone was softened and then hardened,
Mm.
and it just became that. But then the next layer up is not as good. It's still pretty awesome,
Mhm.
but the rocks are not as big. And then
Does it still have that concrete texture? I mean, that's the on Sacsayhuaman, I'm not too sure if I buy into the whole concrete thing, the theory, but it's places like that that do make me think that there's something to it, you know, like they were poured as opposed to.
yeah, I mean, if you were gonna use one place as an example of what that could be like, I would say Sacsayhuaman to be it.
Mm.
What I like to say too, that I went to Machu Picchu in the same trip,
Mhm.
and I was more blown away by Sacsayhuaman than Machu Picchu.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the hike like to get to Machu Picchu?
Well, we did the 5-day Inca trek,
Okay.
which is not necessary. Like if you just want to go to Sacsayhuaman, you can go to the town nearby and
Mhm.
stay there and take a bus up to it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a nice trek, but the megalithic stuff wasn't really on the trail, the Inca trail. It
Right.
was more later real Inca stuff.
Mm.
And we don't like to separate these cultures necessarily
But the ink is
from,
more smaller bricks, isn't
right.
it?
Yeah. But the truth is, they just didn't build these things, And a
But
lot of
don't
people
they
get
say
offended by
that story as well, don't they?
Yeah,
Isn't
they
that
say
their
that the
story?
gods built
Yeah,
them.
the gods built
Right.
them. Yeah.
So, and that would go with Egypt, and that would go with Malta, and that would go with a lot of places in the world where they or giants
Yeah.
or something like that. It's never just some regular humans built it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So if they're saying that, then I think lends it lends enough to really like consider it, put all the cards on the table.
Mm. Well, I mean, if we're in South America and we're talking about the mysteries of South America, you can't leave the Olmec out of there because they just
Right.
who are the Olmec? No one even knows that.
No one even knows.
No one knows.
No.
Anyone that says they know who the Olmec were is lying. They've got no idea. They don't know who the Olmec are, or even where they came from, or where they went.
Right. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody
right?
knows.
And I think, if we stick with South America, some of the new stuff coming out about South America is the fact they've found another 100, 200 pyramids, more roads with the latest LiDAR scans. I think the population they estimate was 100 million, like it could have been up to 200 million people, judging by the amount of dwellings and pyramids and roads. And
yeah,
I mean, they've got dead straight roads down there that run for, 10 miles, 20 miles,
right.
50 Ks. Like, but they didn't have the wheel. Like this is where do we draw the line there? How do we understand that? Like how did they move that? Let's take Sacsayhuaman. How did they move if they didn't have the wheel? That's what we're told. They didn't have horses, they didn't have beasts of burden, they didn't have the wheel.
Right. And they had copper tools.
Copper tools, yeah.
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 That's what they had.
Yeah.
Which they need like the strongest crane in the world, a gantry crane, even to put them in place.
Yes, that's right.
There's a story, and I kind of brush over this in the documentary, that when the Incas tried to duplicate it, the quarry's 3 miles away. They grabbed a huge stone, like thousands of men, and they tried to move it up a hill, and it fell backward and killed 3,000 men, smashed them right there.
Yeah.
So
just rolled dead.
Yeah, just took out thousands of people.
And this is that's a good little segue there. When people say it was manpower that did this,
yeah,
thousands of men, sticks and stones, like, yeah, you're right, Clinton. Oh, by the way, guys, please don't hesitate to ask us questions, and we're here to have a chat tonight. It's a little bit impromptu. As I say, the studio is not finished, but don't hesitate to join in on the conversation.
Yeah, questions and comments are always good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Earth has been reset, Clinton. I mean, actually, do you think, because there's the theory about South America as well, man, that some of those mountains, like the pyramid, the towns on top of the mountains, that's actually been pushed up?
Mm.
Was that pushed up during the Younger Dryas, maybe that last cataclysm? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
And then multiple, like you said at the beginning, multiple epochs.
multiple, and exactly. I
Right.
think again, we think it's, we're told it's like that,
Yeah.
whereas it's not. It's like this, like I
Right.
think it's been reset multiple times, and we need to have a try and grasp an understanding on who, how, and where it was reset.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously. So the two ones that we can say for definitely is 70,000 years ago is the volcano that brought the human population down to 10,000 people
Yeah. The
globally.
Sumatran one.
Yeah, Sumatra. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then you've got the Younger Dryas.
Right.
So that's two major ones in 70,000 years.
Yeah. And then there's probably more minor ones.
More minor ones. Yeah.
Reset just a population in one place or another. I mean, what happened at Mohenjo-Daro in India? I mean, that was like a nuke went off there, and like things were turned to glass, and people skeletons are still radioactive, and like, so what was that? So there's so many different things that happen on this planet.
Well, they call that trinitide, isn't it? That's that
glass.
Yeah. And there's fields of it in. Yeah, there's Mohenjo-Daro, but then there's Africa as well, isn't there? There's fields of that glass.
Yeah.
And the reason we know it's trinitite is that trinitite was named after the Trinity bomb that was, the first detonation. The nuclear blast created that glass, right? So, are we talking, do you think air bursts, or, do we go real crazy straight away and say there was a nuclear war? I mean, if you follow the Indian stuff, you know what I mean? Like
the Mahabharata,
the
Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, the Mahabharata Gita, yeah.
Maharana.
Yeah. And we read something, me and Angus read something in the AFS book that sounded like a flight manual. Like it was like a pilot's manual on how to pilot this craft, right? It was like someone found the pilot's book.
Yeah.
Is that Mahabharata? It was one of those ones, but it reads like a manual of a flying craft.
The Vimanas, the flying.
Vimana, yes. Yeah. Vimana Shastra is what I was thinking about. Yes.
The thing is, like, there had to have been flight. I mean, there's just no other way around the Nazca lines. The Nazca lines.
No, there's no other way.
I mean, who else would they make it for? You know, I mean, they were made to be seen from above.
Well, again, what are they? It's only the gods can see them.
You're right.
Right. But again, how can you even create something like that without being able to see it?
And how can you do that without like having somebody up above, like, move it to the left a little bit. Oh no, to the right.
Yeah, that's right.
You need, how are you going to check your work? You know? So it's something that was obviously, done by, I don't know how it was done.
Yeah.
They're just scorched. It's just like scorching gravel there. That's all it is.
But some of that stuff, some of it's like scorched gravel, but you also can't discount some of the mountaintops in the Nazca lines. They're just like the mountains just been sheared off.
Right.
It's just been sheared off. The mountaintops just been sheared. Like, how do you do that? Right. It's interesting. So I took Leumas down to Wivenhoe Lake this afternoon. We went a bit of a wander around the edge. And one of the discussions we wanted to touch on tonight, it's like, what is this mudflood stuff? Where does the dirt come from? What is this layers of dirt? You know what I mean? I think that needs to be discussed as well, and how often does that happen? And what is it? Are we spinning through a dust cloud in space? And do we do that periodically? Is in one of the thoughts I had about that was the Taurid meteor stream, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we pass through the Taurid meteor stream twice a year. It's 30,000 kilometers wide, takes 15 odd days to pass through. Sure, there's big rocks in there, but what if there's big mud piles or dirt patches? You know what I mean? Like for 2 weeks, you spin through a thing of dirt. But you said that your family. Tell me what you tell the awesome people.
Okay, yeah. So I have a few family members that wrote during So I have one family member who was a whaler,
Uh-huh.
and he sailed one of the longest voyages at that point in time, 1830s.
Mhm.
He sailed from Boston, Massachusetts, around Cape Horn, South America, to New Zealand, and
Mhm.
went up to Honolulu.
Mhm.
That's a pretty big journey.
Absolutely. In
Okay.
those times, yeah, absolutely.
So he has writings. He was literate. He wrote. And another family member was alive during the Civil War in America.
Mhm.
Not the upcoming one, hopefully, but
Yeah.
right. But
That's for later.
yeah. But both relatives being alive during this time, you would think that if something big happened like a mud flood, it would be in their
'Cause-
writings.
Because my understanding is it happened in the early 1800s,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
Yeah. But it'd be something you would be talking about for possibly a decade,
Mm.
because you would be saying stuff like, because of that mud flood, we had to move to this place, or
Yes.
we had to get away.
Well, we had
find
to
food
build
growing.
we had to bury the buildings up to a floor. And the thing is, that's all over the world as well, because that's
Yeah.
here in Brisbane. There's older buildings in the city in Brisbane that have 1 or 2 stories underneath.
That's funny. I looked for that when I was there just the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's
saw it.
doors there.
Yeah.
And there's like, if you got to ask special access to some of these old buildings, but there's like, the door used to be 2 stories down. And if you follow excavations around the world, everywhere there's 1 or 2 stories that exist underneath of
Right.
these buildings that are about of that vintage, or so we're told, late 17, early 1800s.
Right.
There is 1 or 2 stories that are underneath there, but there's no record of it. There's nothing, you'd think, which brings the I know Tartaria leads to flat earth, but let's leave flat earth out of the picture, because the Tartaria stuff, there's nothing to that either. There's something there.
Yeah.
With the Tartaria stuff. I mean, all the old Gothic cathedrals and the World's Fairs that used to happen in the 1800s, and the technology that was represented at the World's Fairs, that, like all sorts of crazy stuff. And then it just blinks out of existence. I think we honestly, man, I think we truly underestimate how much history was rewritten during World War I and World War II.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And before.
And before, yeah.
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 How many times it has been.
Yeah.
But there's something about this. So I always stayed away from Tartaria because it's a slippery slope to flat Earth.
Yes,
And
I agree.
I don't buy that out there. But I do think that there's truth in a lot of things people are looking at that just, and with Tartaria in particular, there's definitely something there. There's
Absolutely.
something. It's not like they just pulling this out of their ass. It's like there's something.
Well,
there.
as I said to you, a good friend of mine, he collects eclectic things, and what you see him in like old movies, like in the libraries, they have like the flip top bars, and they've got like crystal glasses and a decanter and stuff. And this thing is a globe on a tripod, and it's from the early 1900s. And the picture of the globe has Tartaria on it, where Russia is.
Right. Yeah.
So it's weird. Like there's multiple maps that have this Tartaria on them. So, what are we talking about there?
And it's an architecture type too. That
yes,
spans
the Gothic, almost Gothic architecture. Yeah.
And some of these buildings, maybe not as impressive as this megalithic stuff we're talking about, but they're pretty damn impressive for the time and the tools they had.
Well, it's incarnations. I mean, but how do we compare, say, the Sistine Chapel or the Cathedral of Notre Dame, or even some of the cathedrals here in Australia are stunning, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's an amazing building. And the techniques that were used, again, the Masons did that. They were built by the Masons using Masonic techniques. What are we talking about? But yeah, there's an architecture type, there's a stereotype that exists for this Tartaria stuff. And I don't know, I just wanted to explore that with you, because I don't, maybe we should put a pen in Tartaria.
Yeah.
And when you get back, or let's do a deep dive.
Let's do a deep dive. I've actually always wanted to do it. It's just one of those things that I always kind of put back on the back burner because
of the connotation.
Yeah. And exactly. But you can separate truth from lies. So
yes,
even if it's attached to some lies, you can slice that part off and look at what's actually true and what stands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tartaria to me is it's Tartaria seems like it was probably a name of just one place. I've never
Mhm.
seen it except for at Russia.
Yeah.
But this type of civilization back then. Oh, this is what I wanted to say. So one thing we don't take into consideration is that in our modern day, we don't take time to make buildings an art piece.
No,
Where
it's
these
money.
days,
It's time and
those
money.
days they did.
Yes.
And they, who knows how long these buildings really took because
Yeah.
they're beautifully crafted.
Well, you look at again some of these churches and stuff that are built here in places like Sydney and Melbourne are older here in Australia, so we probably use Sydney and Melbourne. However, it's who built it and how long did it actually take?
Yeah. And I would say the Masons again come into that picture.
Of course they do. Of course they do. Look, I think some of the larger picture type stuff for the things down under is that Friday was the late 1700s that the Masons were run out of France. The Templars, was it? I think a percentage of them came here.
That's a possibility. Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
And,
right? It's a brand new world. No one knows who you are. And some of the cathedral work and some of the triptych echoes, like the Mason signatures with the feminine and the masculine and the moon and the sun and all the symbology, echoes through so many churches and so many different things down here. It's quite fascinating.
And the Masons being builders, so they pay all their tributes to this guy who's a fictitious character we've talked about before, Hiram Abiff.
Mm-hmm.
But Hiram Abiff was the master builder. So who was this guy if he wasn't real? And who was the master builder? And what did the master builder know? It's always questions I've had.
Okay. Yeah. I don't have it now and everything's packed away because this studio's empty. However, I'm going to show you some Mason documents later that I got from my grandfather. I can give you some interesting insights into Hiram. So Hiram, or whoever it is, who's the master architect, the master builder, he was one of the master builders that got sent to the Temple of Solomon, got sent to build the Temple of Solomon to house the treasures of the world, right?
Right.
And that is the first lodge was founded outside the Temple of Solomon. That's the Masonic story, okay?
Yeah.
In the papers that I have, the Masons that went to build the Temple of Solomon actually came from the region of Tyre, which is pretty close to Baalbek.
Right.
And they were called the Tyrian architects, right?
Mm-hmm. And
they were students of the Dionysian mysteries, which again, that goes back and back and back.
Yeah.
Right. So the Dionysus and the Dionysian mysteries and those codexes, that is something that, again, echoes through time, right? I think Dionysus is a Greek god.
Greek, yeah.
Yeah. But who's Dionysus in the Egyptian setting? Because there's another god for whoever Dionysus is.
Right.
He's in the Egyptians. He'd also be in the Sumerians and the Babylonians. These gods, and again, we both know that in the early biblical text, it was gods, right? Gods.
Elohim.
Yeah. Right. So it's not God, it was gods. It's always how it's been. And that story and those gods have echoed through basically from Sumer until now. These days, we call them angels or archangels or Nephilim or seraphim or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, they were, if you think about, Raphael and Michelangelo and Michael and the angels, the archangels, they are representative of, again, Greek, Roman, Sumerian, Babylonian, Egyptian gods and goddesses.
Yeah.
So it's all the same, but it echoes back. But the megalithic builder, sorry, I went on a bit of a rant there, but the megalithic building and the Masons, the Freemasons who were created at the Temple of Solomon, actually came from Tyre, and Tyre is not far from Baalbek, and we know what Baalbek is.
Yeah, well, that's a good way to think about it. Yeah, good connection point there. Yeah.
So, and when I see that, this, it's quite funny. It's interesting, guys. We don't you don't normally talk to another podcaster.
No, you don't.
yeah.
It's a lonely world, actually.
Yeah. So we've been having
Yeah.
some interesting discussions because I mean, I can only imagine how many research rabbit holes you've got open. You know, it's like, oh, that's really fascinating. I'll come back to that. You know what I mean? I'll
Yeah.
come back to that, or I'll come back to that.
Oh, so many come back to that.
Yeah, that's right. And one of the ones I was going to come back to after I got the Masonic documents and I read through and analyzed them and did the thing was if you start looking into Tyre now,
Okay.
there is a lot of megalithic architecture in Tyre, or what was Tyre. I think it's still called Tyre, that I'd never heard about or seen.
Okay.
But that's where the architects came who built the Temple of Solomon, which started the Freemasons.
Yeah.
Right.
That's important connection point, though. It is.
So let's put. So what do we got? We got two comebacks to. We got Tartaria and Tyre.
And you know what? Like I was thinking, you know, we covered the moon.
Yes,
but the moon could always be fleshed out more. It's just that there is a point where you hit a wall, you just can't do anymore. You know.
Yeah,
that's the problem. But yeah, it's Tartaria for sure.
We got to come back to Tyre as well.
Tyre. Yeah.
Well, considering we are on the Encounters Down Under YouTube channel as well, I know you'd shared this story on your show a few times before, but you had your own close encounter.
I did, yeah.
A few years back.
24 years ago.
24 years ago. So just the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just like yesterday. But no, I did.
So what happened, man? Share it.
Let me get some water here.
Yeah, get some water. What you know what I'm noticing is that in the new studio where it's just plaster and bare wall everywhere, I think there's a bit of dust in the air. So we'll just monitor and deal with that.
Oh yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. Sure.
All right. So yeah, going back to 2000. So this is a big time in my life where the year before that, I learned the truth, what's going on planet Earth from an insider. So that set me off on the journey I'm taking with my own show and stuff. But the following year, I was living on the island of Kauai, and I was staying in this place. It actually kind of reminds me of this, like an unfinished place.
Yep.
But I had to share it with a kid. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that was part of the deal. I was 22 probably. And I thought I had the whole place to myself. There was 2 beds in there. But I was like, oh, whatever, you know. So, and put my stuff down. And then I realized that this kid comes home and he's staying there too. So I was like, that's not supposed to be part of the deal. Well, it ended up being part of the deal. And I got basically, you know, swindled out of some money for the rent. So at that point, I just decided I didn't really want to do that anymore. So I started sleeping on a tent on the beach. I actually enjoyed it. It was like a nice way to wake up for a while there. But then this friend of mine, this surfer guy, he's found me and he said, you know, it does rain a lot here. If you need, you can stay in the back of my pickup truck, you know, and put a sleeping bag in there if you want to get out of the rain. So I took him up on that offer one night. So he stayed on this road and there's no street lights on the road. So it's just pitch dark, you know. He had these 2 dogs and he lived with his girlfriend inside. So I decided to sleep in the back of his truck that night. And I got up to go pee in the middle of the night. And well, I guess what first woke me up was the dogs. So these dogs would bark at everything, like anything that happened, whether it was, you know, some old lady walking by or anything that went by, a chicken or whatever, they would bark at it. So I heard the dogs, but they weren't making barking noises. This is in the middle of the night. They were making a noise that sounded like like that. So I was like, that's weird, but whatever. I got to go pee. So I went out there and I looked to my right, and this is a pitch dark road. And there was this giant, like bright light. It wasn't that big, but it was about bigger than a car. And it was on the ground down the road.
Yeah.
And I couldn't make out what the hell it was because the lights just didn't look right to me. It wasn't the back of any vehicle. It was mostly white. And
so
it had a
how far away? So what do we
see? I'm going to say about 500 feet, which is, I know you guys are meters,
About 200 meters. Yeah.
200 meters.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So pretty close.
No, it's not. Yeah. And how many lights were we seeing? 1, 2, 3, or?
I was seeing it mainly just white, but there was some red in there too.
Okay.
And that was about it. And it didn't make any sense to me. So it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Instantly, I felt a fear that just struck my body all the way down to my bones, So I went and hid in the back of the truck in my sleeping bag because I knew it wasn't right. I didn't know what to do. And I had a little crack open where the sleeping bag is, and I could see out the little window.
Yeah.
And the sky lit up gold color, like gold, like your logo on there, but brighter.
Yeah.
And then it was gone, I guess. So I went back out and I looked, and the light was gone. So whatever it was, lit up the whole sky.
And did it come towards you, or it went away, or it didn't
just went away? It just lit up this like lightning.
So do you think? Did you think it had landed, or what do you reckon? If you reflect upon it now, what do you think?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Or it was at just about dirt level. If it was hovering there, maybe it was, but I didn't get that good of a look because at that point in time, I knew the fear came over me, and I'm not normally like that. That was a really weird artificial.
That's that fight, flight, freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I woke up the next day, and I told my friend and his girlfriend, but I don't think they really believed me. I mean, what a crazy story to bring up, right? So.
And what was the feeling? Obviously, you said fear. Is there awe? Because I'm curious with these experiences. Like, I think there's something primitive that takes over.
Yeah, it would have been just like a deep fear. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it.
Well, it's fear of the unknown. You had no idea.
Fear of the unknown, and you're like, yeah, like what can I do against that? I don't know if it's going to hurt me or what. So it just gives you that primal fear.
And this is in Hawaii, yeah.
Yeah, this is on the island of Kauai.
And for such, I mean, this is one of the. There does seem to be a lot of sightings around Hawaii.
There is, yeah, and I can tell you about a lot more too. Yeah, but this one was like
that was your. Was that a bit of a breakthrough type experience for you? That you?
Oh yeah.
Were you a UFO person before that, and then after that you believed, or where were you?
I always believed they exist, but I had never seen one, and I really didn't like. I didn't. I think I probably was a doubter a little bit, but not fully, because as a kid I was into this stuff.
Yeah. So
not totally. But I had never seen anything. So then I was just like, well, that's definitely a UFO. I mean, what else is it? But yeah, the thing about it that happened to me after that is I got really sick. I got sick for like 2 months. I had a fever, and I woke up and I spit out some blood too. So it was kind of weird, like just little chunks of like bloody nose kind of stuff.
Is it like radiation sickness or something?
That's what I think about sometimes. I don't know, but it just seems like I was really sick after that night. I coughed for a really long time. But the other thing I can put into the equation, they were spraying our skies a lot, starting around there. So there was a lot of more things that they were messing with like that as well. So, but
Clinton's saying maybe because of the volcano. You think the UFOs are there because of the volcanic activity?
They are attracted to that. There's some truth in that. My friend I had on, if you listen to my show,
Chant It Down.
Yep. That is last guest I had on. Second to last guest was Zach. Zach talked exactly about that. They're attracted to the volcanoes. They're attracted to the newly formed land. It has some magnetics to it. So,
well, one of the epiphanies I had in the last little while, I was watching a documentary or something like that, because obviously with the UFO stuff and Nikola Tesla's design, Otis Carr built the XTC-1, there was these things called accumulators, neutrons is what he called them in his design. I could show you the designs. I've got them on the computer there.
Okay.
They were called Utrons, and he never told anybody what the Utrons were made out of. I think they were made out of what they call magnetite, right? Which is a rock and a substance which is found in Bermuda mainly, and like you think about the Bermuda Triangle, right?
Right.
There's massive magnetite deposits in Bermuda, but I wouldn't be surprised with the volcanic activity around Hawaii if there wasn't some other magnetic properties, because I think if we go to the nuts and bolts side of the UFO things, if they are physical machines, I think magnetite is part of what creates anti-gravity. And I do think the other side, the volcano aspect, there's also the aspect that there's a lot of these things that are coming out from the ocean, right?
Right. USOs.
USOs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not. And I thought it was UAP was unidentified aerial phenomena, but it's not now. It's unidentified anomalous phenomena.
Is that what it is?
Yes, so they changed it again, right?
Why did they change it?
Well, to USOs,
Yeah.
right? Because unidentified anomalous phenomena means it's multimedia. It's not just aerial, because it's not just aerial.
It's not. No. Yeah.
So I suppose, where do you sit with the UAP, UFO, USO stuff now? Are you past the nuts and bolts phase? Yeah, but you are right.
They have environmental.
Yes,
yeah.
they do. Yeah. A lot of our gold comes from volcanoes as well. Yeah, gold is made by volcanoes. That's when I was in PNG on Lihia. Lihia is basically half an exploded volcano, and some of the purest gold from the world comes from there.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And look, we were going for geothermal wells for geothermal power, and part of that was because of Leahy is on the Ring of Fire. Yeah.
Is it a UFO hotspot too?
Yeah, not well. Most of Papua New Guinea is still tribesmen,
right?
But the Papua New Guinean people do have stories about lights in the sky. Right?
Okay.
Considering it's encounters down under, I think the weirdest thing that the PNG people speak about is the fact that basically giant flying birds, so pterodactyls or the massive eagles that used to live down this part of the world. Like we had they've found in New Zealand, they've found eagles with wingspans basically the size of this room.
Wow.
But they reckon that pterodactyls or something like that potentially still exist. I mean, that's an interesting question as well.
It is.
Well,
we were talking about volcanoes and mountains and stuff.
Uh-huh.
A lot of these UFOs are attracted to mountains, and are known to fly in mountains.
Into the mountains, yes.
So I've been to Isetti Ranch in the state of Washington. That's a UFO hotspot, and you're pretty much guaranteed to see UFOs. So you go to this place, and there's a mountain, Mount Adams, and there's a big field between you and that. And you just watch all these UFOs go around Mount Adams, and there are all these blinking lights all over the place. They're really there. And the Native American chief there told me, they goes way back in their legends about this mountain. And yeah, we saw quite a few different things there, but the veil's very thin. And the reason I brought that up too is just because you talked about pterodactyl. A friend of mine who used to come on my show way back, Son, he talked about seeing a pterodactyl. He was a caretaker at Isetti Ranch.
Right.
So the veil is thin in some places in the world. Hawaii is another place where the veil is really thin.
Yeah. And when you say veil, what do you mean by that? You think that there's cross-dimensional things where these things exist, or are we operating in time shifts, or where do you go with that?
I think it's just the fact that there's a lot more to even the dimensions of the world. So I think it's just the dimensions are thin there where things show themselves. They see a lot of Sasquatch there too. So I've never seen that, but
we call those Yowies.
Yowies, right? Yeah.
And the Yowie thing's fascinating as well, because it's like I was a non-believer about Yowies, and then I had Brian and Daniel in here share their experience. I had Matt share his experience. And then I started talking to people like old, I know a few, they call them rangers, where they used to guide jackaroos, and they'd guide cattle from the north to the south. And you're talking like 5,000 head of cattle, right? And they're droving them down through North Queensland. And they would take a 3-day diversion around this patch of bush because the horses wouldn't go in there, the cows wouldn't go in, no one would go in there. And I was like, why? He's like, oh, it's because the Yowies live there. That's their spot. And he was just matter of fact. I'm like, do you believe in Yowies, man? And this is a very Ocker Aussie bloke, hard as nails, ridden horses all his life. He's like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen him in the firelight outside the fires, especially when you're in remote bush. He's like, didn't even hesitate to say that they were real. I mean, I wonder whether they're an interdimensional type thing.
Some people say that. The last guest I had on my show, Seb is telepathically connected with, not telepathically, but I know this sounds kind of crazy, but he's had out-of-body experiences with Sasquatch.
Okay.
Yeah, he told the story on an older show of mine. But yeah, you can. I mean, I don't really understand it, but I mean, I have met people that have seen it. So I was in the state of Oregon. We're staying at an Airbnb. Usually, you don't meet the host, but the next day they were an old couple, like this happy old couple. We saw them, and they wanted to chat with us, and they showed us a little bit of the property, and they were showing us this river. This is by Crater Lake, which is a pretty famous lake.
Absolutely,
yeah. Anyway, the guy was like, "Oh yeah, sometimes the Sasquatch, he stands on the other side of the river, and then the one on this side, they yell at each other, and sometimes he's right up in this tree." And I was just all a matter of fact.
Yeah, just not even questioning.
I'm like, like as if we're just going to believe him. What if we didn't? So, but I was like, okay. And then the wife was just like talking about that the Sasquatch doesn't like that they put their house there because it was part of its stomping grounds.
Right.
So it was all matter of fact. And it's interesting the things that are matter of fact. You can go into giants with that too.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
You can go into
when you go back to ancient megalith stuff.
Yeah.
What is the Sumerian? What are the Sumerian carvings clearly depict a larger hominid being and a smaller hominid being?
That's right.
Right. They're like people, giants holding lions and petting lions.
Yeah. Gilgamesh is actually holding a full-grown lion. It's got a mane. It's not
it's a full-grown lion, and he's holding it like it's a cat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, and do they, why did they carve that? Like, what are we talking about there?
And the lifespans of people too. I did a show about that a while back.
Oh, do you know what we have put a pin in that we haven't come back to? Is the Sumerian kings list.
That's right.
There's number 3.
There's number 3. Are you guys keeping track of that out there?
Someone write that down. Hey, I love you there, Clinton, brother. But anyone else, questions, queries, subjects, don't hesitate to chip in. I enjoy
we're just all freestyle tonight.
We're just freestyling. Ooh, there's a good one. We'll chuck that one up there. Do you think the Anunnaki were the giants? That is a very interesting question. I think the Anunnaki. Well, I mean, where do we go with that? Maybe, yes, maybe. Or were they the gods, right? So what did we say? We're back when we started this conversation, only the gods can see them. They were built for the gods, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
What are we talking about there, right?
Yeah, I mean, and then everything about these gods or the half gods, right?
Yeah.
The ones that were the rulers in, Egypt and Sumer and all these places.
G'day, Michelle.
Yeah, what were these long lifespans really all about?
And why do they go down as well? Like, it's like at the start of the kings, if they're living for 10,000 years, and then they go down, they're down.
Right.
And then the unspoken part about the kings list stuff is it also happens in Egypt. It's the pharaohs list as well.
Zep Tepi.
Yeah, the Zep Tepi, the Pharisist. And the funniest thing about the Egyptian one, and they do the same with the Sumerian one, it's like they accept the last 3 rulers of Sumeria, but the rest, they were just lying about that. They were just a joke, you know.
Yeah, we'll just pull the ones we need out of there. The other ones, I don't know what they're talking about, you know.
Yeah,
yeah. So you're right. They get low as they go lower and lower. They live less and less, and that coincides with the Bible as well. I mean,
you can, absolutely.
You know, right after the flood, everybody's lives are like 120 years.
Well, I mean that you know, now we're starting to talk about the potential downgrade theory, aren't we?
Yeah.
Right? Were we downgraded? You know, I was talking to Leumas at the lake this afternoon. It's like when Billy Carson went on the JRE and basically said the Anunnaki are real. For some reason, that released the shackles on me. Once this studio is finished, we're going to deep dive into a lot of different crazy. It's a good question, Michelle. I don't know where everybody is. I think the EDU, for some reason on the StreamYard, it's not connecting to the EDU Facebook page. I think that's where a lot of the guys used to watch. However, I asked Clinton to forward it on. If you want to forward it on there too, that'd be cool.
Yeah, tell your friends.
Yeah. Hey, Woody. What's going on, man? Yeah, look, the Anunnaki, honestly, at the end, I was skeptical about the Sumerian texts. I was skeptical about you're on YouTube. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Wherever you guys are listening, the good thing about StreamYard is we get comments from all the different pages. So that's very cool.
That's good.
Yes, at the start of Earth's Forbidden Secrets that we did, you know, that was a 23 episode spectacular. However, very enjoyable. I was skeptical about the Sumerian stuff, but as you know as well, Leumas, when you start diving into something, the offshoots of rabbit holes, it's like
it's hard to keep track of.
It's hard to keep track. But I really dug into the Sumerian and the Anunnaki story, and there's definitely a fascination. I mean, what is it? I mean, were the Anunnaki the giants was the question. I'm going to put a pin in that, Clinton, and say maybe. But I think talking about the Anunnaki is worthwhile as well, because it's like, yes, yeah, there's Grub. Yes, we are, mate. He's live. He's down from Hawaii, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're both in the same room. Yeah. How are you, Grub? Good to see you, man.
Grub. I've done something with Grubs. Maybe it was General Lee.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
No.
We were talking about magnetite
Grub.
and neutrons before, Grub. We needed to speak, man. I've got to get this studio done. We got some work to do. Look, I mean, what is the fascination with gold, right? But let's step away from, you know, and again, this idea's evolved a little bit in the last little while, because I don't have a fascination with gold.
No,
you don't have a fascination with gold. It's funny, a lot of the different people.
Blood transfusions, tests.
I miss you, Grub. But when was the Bronze Age, Grub? Okay, I don't know. We're skipping around a bit, but when we talk about timelines, when was the Bronze Age, and what does that actually mean? Because if you actually look in the timeline, there's gaps of hundreds of years. It's like we skip from here to here. Like, oh, this was the Iron Age, this was the Stone Age, this was this. You know, but the gold thing is interesting. You know, among the many things, you know, the all the stuff is apparently they released the fact that they have found the 10th planet and it's massive and it's heading this way. Now, if that is true, is that Nibiru?
Is that what they're saying? Like,
yes,
regular people, like mainstream people.
Yeah, it came out. It was one of, you know how like they told us that aliens are real and no one cares. Yeah, same thing.
It's one of those.
Yeah, one of those.
Oh yeah.
There was 2 that caught my eye. I posted them on the page. They've happened a long time ago, but one was there's a mothership in the solar system coming towards us, and the other one was that they had actually discovered the 10th planet. It's like 10 times the size of Earth, and it seems to be coming this way. Which, if you believe the Sumerian translation, that, you know, I mean, look, Nibiru is on an elliptical orbit, right? And I am going to make a computer animation of this, right? But close your eyes, everybody, and imagine this for a second. So if you look at our solar system, got the sun in the middle, and let's draw circles of, say, the 9 planets, okay? Then you add an elliptical orbit running through continually, and you join that. And what happens, and I've got a picture of it somewhere in one of the books. I sat up here one night and I did it. It makes the flower of life.
So I was reading that last comment. I got
Thanks for jumping in, Michelle. Well, the Greek stuff, I mean, how do we, when we talk about Greek stuff, what are we talking about? Because I think the Greeks stole a lot of the things.
They did.
I don't know when they say the Greeks created democracy and they did this and they did that. And look, I'm part Greek, so I'm sort of, shitting in my own nest a little bit. However, I think when they were conquering the best part of Asia, they stole it, I think. All right. Yeah, Planet X. Yeah, Planet X. But then I saw, what do you reckon about John Lear? Have you ever looked into him? He says some pretty crazy stuff. He's like, there's 50 exoplanets that exist in the solar system. Half of them have civilizations and no one knows.
Yeah.
He went, I don't think he's alive anymore, but he went hard in the paint with some chaotic stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Though, the thing is, like, there was, you go back to all these different civilizations, you go back to each one, they all pretty much have the same thing. They have the gods, they have the commoners.
Well, it's the same story.
It's the civilization itself. One of the things I've always said is civilization is not human. Like, I don't feel like humans would have came up with civilization. I think it's a foreign way to live. Like, to think that you should live in a city where all your food, you have to rely on the outside, or, it just doesn't seem natural that hunter-gatherers would have gone into creating civilization. It just always seemed foreign to me, to the human existence.
It seems but if you add the Anunnaki that we were upgraded and designed, right, and then, but I think there's multiple levels to that. I think it wasn't just slaves to create to mine gold. I think there's definitely those people, right? Because we know people that are slaves to gold. And that get crazy around it. Like, I've met people that go crazy when they're around gold. Gold fever.
Yeah.
I actually saw it, right? I actually saw gold fever once, and this is a bit of a here's a story. So, long story short, we were working in Lihia, and we had a laydown yard. It was built out of all the offcut, all the offshoot. What do they call it? I'm missing terminology here, but they built the laydown yard out of the stuff that had already been through the crusher. Grub, it is so hard to hang on to. The root and the herb medicine back to city states. That's interesting. That's an interesting thought, man. Expand on that one for me, just while I tell this story. So, long story short, I had a lot of fool's gold, pyrite, right? Okay. That was bedded in the quartz, but then I found this other bit of quartz that quite clearly had a gold streak through it, and I sort of scraped it with my knife, right, and it was soft. And I thought, well, there's one way to test this. I got a bit of pyrite, and I got some gold, right. I got some gold. I got this bit of quartz, and we took it to the welding lab, right, crushed it up, and the boys put a torch on it, and it was gold. And it was like me and 3 other boys there. Those 3 boys went nuts. Oh, what are we going to do? How are we going to keep it? How are we going to And I just went, you know what, you guys, you can have it. Because basically at Lihia, when you went out, right, when you went home, you went through a mineral detector. And if they found rocks or gold in your bag, you'd be kicked off the island forever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which, no stealing sort of thing. So you can sort of understand that. However, it's one of those things where the gold fascination, and I actually, because I worked in gold mining for a few years there, I've seen a few gold bars poured, and one of the ones I saw in Western Australia get poured, that was pretty crazy, because it's like, it sort of become like, oh, my precious, you know what I mean? I was like, my precious. Well, it's like that could, set me up for life, that little piece of You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, well, the thing, so we're kind of going back to why people like gold, right?
Uh-huh.
And why some people don't. And could that be this messing they did with humans in modifying us
Yes.
at one point, at multiple points?
Yeah.
I actually would say, because if you read any of the Sumerian texts and possibly others too,
Mm.
it all talks about taking the human and modifying them a few different times. Like the human couldn't even have reproduce at first. They have
Yes.
another model.
Uh-huh.
So there's, would it be that the people that like gold are from the tinkered class of people that were
The original class.
Yeah.
But again, so then you've got the origin story, the 780,000 year, the Palladian myth, the Orion myth as well. Is that, are we, because the other question with this whole Anunnaki thing is there's really, what, 5, 6 races of human?
As in like ethnic races?
Yeah, ethnic races.
Yeah,
Right. You've got the Polynesian.
I think there's 4.
Asian.
There's actually 4.
Indian, white, African American, or black.
I did a show on it a long time ago. But there's actually, they lump it into 4. Like they lump the Asian and the like Central American people all as one. Like
I wouldn't say that though.
I know, it's just weird. I did some research on it and I was like, wait, it only goes down to, and they did the Caucasians and they did the blacks.
Yeah.
And then they had another race, which is the Melanesian people who are of, well, Australia, I think, is some relation to that. And then you got Papua New Guinea, and they were a separate race. But anyway, we're kind of going off on a limb on that. But
I mean, okay. So if multiple, what if it's not just one? Where I was getting at, and someone clue me in, Woody or Grub, on the podcast you boys are talking about. Tag me, send me a link or something like that, because I am curious about what you're talking about.
Donald Jones.
So I mean, the thing is, so with the gold, if we go back to the Anunnaki stuff, theoretically the gold was there to reinforce their atmosphere because of the elongated orbit. They've got to travel out through dark space, away from the sun for X amount of time, and they use gold to shield their. It's
supposed to repair their atmosphere
or something like that. They use the gold dust, right? But the weird thing about the gold is, where is the gold, Leumas? Where is the gold? Because no major country knows where its gold deposits are. So, like, through the COVID stuff, one of the politicians, Gerard Rennick, who was pushing back against the narrative, one of the things he asked about Australia, because Australia is gold rich, it's one of the richest gold countries in the world, right? We sent our gold to London. Why is a good question, but whatever. We don't actually have our gold here. It's not like we're the biggest island continent in the world. We've got plenty of spots, it's like there's a fair bit of space around here. But no one in the Australian government has done a physical check on our gold stocks in 15 years, and no one actually physically knows where they are.
Right. And Fort Knox is supposed to be empty.
Fort Knox is empty, yeah. So where's the gold, man?
Where did all it go? Yeah. I mean, so I went into Peru. What they did with the Incas gold is they put it in their churches. So the inside of the church that's built up on the Coricancha is just full of gold in there. Yeah.
Like inside the walls, or
walls, and like the organ and everything, it's all gold.
Yeah, right.
So that's the only place I've seen any gold put to use. But you're right. I mean, that's a good question. Where did it all go? All the gold.
Yeah, well, some of the gold, as I was saying before, Grub, some of the gold does come from Lihia. Through volcanic. It comes up from under the earth, right? Which, then we could talk about ant people, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If what Grub's sort of talking about, these people are using or making minerals with certain bits and pieces. Gold was part of the volcanic process in Papua New Guinea. I know that one because that's where they were mining it out of. Basically, it was being spewed out from the volcanic process into the mine.
Mm-hmm.
Is pretty much how it was going. Is how I understood that was happening. But I wonder, the question I was getting is not just the gold. It's like, what if we were seeded by more than one civilization?
It's quite possible.
Or more than one species, You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's the Palladians versus the Orions.
Well, the thing that makes sense to me, if you just look at it, at the way these people are very different. Like, I don't feel like the races of this planet could have naturally evolved into how different they all are in this amount of time
Yes.
given by the theory of evolution.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Like, how could they have gotten that different from each other?
Yeah.
Just from sunlight, pigmentation, I mean, different colors of skin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, theory is
And
that we're
facial
all
features are so different,
we're all black, but we're supposedly white because we hid in a cave for however many years, and that's
Right.
what our freckles are.
Yeah.
Is our leftover melanin. That's the reality, right? That's the story.
Yeah.
However, Caucasian versus African versus Asian versus Indian versus American, Indian, South American versus, you know what I mean? I wouldn't say there's more than four, right? I'd say there's at least five. You know, what if there's seven? Because isn't that the story? The seven sisters of the Pallades tracked across the stars, being chased by the three brothers of Orion.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Was that before or after the Anunnaki?
Yeah. Who knows?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Were we then modified again by the Anunnaki into a slave race? Right. So, look, man,
And then I don't know if you've heard this. I think we talked about this before, but Enki and Enlil in the Sumerian tablets, some people believe them to be two different factions of beings.
yes, absolutely.
So
yeah.
that could be split in half. The Anunnaki could not just be one group; it could be many, actually.
Well, yeah, is it because it's Enki and his wife? What was her name again?
Ned Herzog.
Ned Herzog,
Yeah.
which is they're the Sumerian. But Enlil didn't like us, right? He was unhappy because Enki had given us too many skills, or he'd modified us and we were too independent, or something like that.
No, we were an abomination of creation.
That's right.
We weren't supposed to be playing. They weren't supposed to be playing God.
Yes.
But
well, they went too far.
They went too far.
Yeah.
Enlil was always against it, though.
Yeah.
And Enki was excited to be the the inventor of humanity. He liked humans.
Yes.
Supposedly.
And that's the story. That's how we found out about the flood, right? He's like, don't tell the humans about the flood. So he walked to a wall and someone was on the other side of the wall and he was telling the wall there was a flood coming. And that's how he got around it. That's the story. That it's an interesting one. But it seems to be part of the creation, right? Because the Anunnaki story has the flood, it has the gods, it has the division, it has because if you were to take it back to biblical text, we're talking about Lucifer, and we're talking about the dark angels versus the archangels. Yeah. There's that. If you dig into the biblical text, that's all there as well. It's not like it's not. You know what I mean?
In simplified form. It's crazy to me that there's that little passage that the daughters of men slept with, or
the gods slept with the daughters of men.
Yeah. It's just like one little thing. That's it. Uh-huh. You wonder, like, why did they say that even? It's like they skipped an entire huge story and they simplified it down to a few words,
That's interesting, Grub. They were using snake venom as medicine and forced lactation for cures. The amount of medicine science was mind-blowing. I totally agree with that. I mean, we have to understand, look, part of the other side of this conversation that we want to talk about is the darkness that is engulfing this planet. However, we need to understand that medical science was taken over by the petroleum and pharmaceutical industries in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and that's what we're dealing with now. There's so many natural medicines. In fact, any pharmaceutical that actually works is derived from a natural plant or something like that. And I think, raw minerals, it does play a part. I don't know if you've ever been to, well, you must have been to geothermal spas. Have they got those in Hawaii, like geothermal baths and stuff like that?
Oh, you mean like you're talking about like hot pools?
Yeah, hot pools. Yeah.
Hot springs.
Yeah. Like if I know the ones in New Zealand, the hot springs in New Zealand, I do not know what is in the hot springs in New Zealand, But I went there. One of the times I went there, I was very sore. I mean, my knees are gone, my back's gone. Like I've got injuries from football. I sat in those hot springs for like half an hour a day, every day for like a week. I was not sore for months, right? And what is that? That's just all minerals. This is what Grub's saying. This is all just minerals and raw minerals that affect us as humans, right? And I think it's a curious thing, you know. I mean, the other undeniable thing is that there's substance in our bone structure that is space dust. Like we can't. That's the reality.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
you know,
It was taken over when they burned the witches. We're talking about human fluids as cures.
oh, that's creepy. That's creepy.
Mm.
That's look again. We talk about, you know, witches. That's the medicine woman. That's the shaman. That's the person that would cure with the medicines. They, you know, it's like I say here in Australia, right? And Grub would know this. I could say to you, if you told me you had a headache, I could say to you, hey mate, go to the willow bark tree, take some bark off there, boil it into a tea,
Yeah.
drink the tea, and you're going to feel a lot better. And you go, what? Well, no, probably you wouldn't. You'd probably do it, but
yeah.
most people would go, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Paracetamol, Panadol, whatever you want to call it, is based in there, right? Look, that's a dark rabbit hole we're going down in there, Grub. I might leave that one alone, but we need to speak. I want you part of UTC3, brother. I do miss you. That's a whole different. We're going down a whole different pathway there. So I suppose. Look,
what I could just add to that though is that our I would just say that basically all this medicine was hijacked when civilization became the world that they wanted us to live in. Like, you know,
yes.
what I mean, all these, they want only their creations.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So these medicines were taken away, and they want us to be dependent on them. You know, so it's basically it was just the same thing when we were talking earlier about how these you know, civilization means that you're completely dependent on it. You have to depend on food being trucked in.
Exactly. It's the civilization where you are not self-sustained.
No, you're not. You have no autonomy. Yeah. So it's the same thing. But yeah, they took away with it the right just to live on the land too.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as it goes, we sort of took a few weird twists and turns there.
Yes, we did. I don't know where we go though.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's all right.
That's all right. It doesn't matter. We're free balling tonight. That's where do we? Because I mean, obviously, we're leaning into the pharmaceutical side of things, so maybe we switch gears. And what's curious now is I'm pretty sure we can talk about this. We can talk about this now on YouTube, live on YouTube. However, 3 years ago, we couldn't talk about what we're about to talk about live on YouTube. We would be banned, and well, I'm already shadow banned. That happened a long time ago. Yeah. It's all good, Grub, man. As I say, brother, I miss you.
It's all good.
So I mean, there's so many fight clubs we can't talk about, Leumas.
There is a lot of them.
You know, there's so many fight clubs we can't talk about. So we started ranting in the car at each other on the way here. You are the guest, sir. What's the first fight club? Because let's talk about the fight. So the first rule of Fight Club is we can't talk about Fight Club,
right?
But let's talk about Fight Club.
Let's talk about Fight Club.
What is the first Fight Club?
So we're switching gears now from our megalithid talks.
I think so. Well, okay. I think we twisted and turned, and we might as well just switch again.
Let's do it. All right. We're going to go here anyway.
Yeah, we're going here anyway.
All right.
I didn't know how we were going to make the transition, so let's just snap change, right?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we started talking about pharmaceuticals, so it's really the only logical.
It's a gateway right here. Okay, so I'm just going to have to say it, and it's the thing that everybody's not talking about, and it's the fallout from the arm spear. I guess if we're to stay on YouTube, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, the arm spear.
The arm
Yeah.
spear. Okay. The fallout from the arm spear is
That sounds
really bad.
delicious, by the way, Grub, but we switch gears, bro.
Onion pine sap. Almond
Yeah, no. Pine sap, almond oil, cedar pine, camphor, and camphor laurel. What's that? So just before we, obviously we're talking about natural medicines here, Grub. What's that for, man? Just let us know what you're going to use that for. But basically, yeah, it's the injured and the arm spear. Look, they're not going to kick us off, man. There's so many. It's the vaccine injured, right? It's the death rate. So, just so we understand for the Aussie listeners here, between 2021 and now, there has been 40,000. Let me just say that again, plus 40,000 excess deaths since the rollout, plus 40,000 in 3 years. Do the math and then do it by the day. And remember that we shut the world down for someone who died with COVID.
I think people need to be reminded of the fact that the world was shut down. We were held ransom until the only way we were allowed to go back to normal was to get this shot. I mean, think about the manipulation there, the coercion on the grand scale of the world.
Yeah.
And think about that wasn't that long.
Mass formation psychosis.
Absolutely. And the crowd mind and just how it was, how intense that was. Just what was that? 4 years ago, right? 4 years ago.
Well, 3. It's September 2024. It rolled out in April 21.
I've never been the same since. Yeah.
Hey, Grub, I want to talk. My wife would be very interested in that. Let's talk about that later. So, Woody, did you have an experience, mate? Don't share if you don't want to. However, just so we know, I don't know whether the coach is listening or watching. However, he's been to 10 funerals this year, most of them turbo cancer, people that were healthy 2 years ago and now are not. Like it's the amount of stuff. Like, how did they get away with poisoning the world? How did they do that? And, you want to talk about old civilization, megalith civilization. We're bad peasants, right? Once upon a time, we would tar and feather our politicians and our leaders if they behaved badly. How, right? Is it just because do you know what? The mass formation psychosis is one thing, but I think the creepier thing now is the cognitive dissonance that, ooh, stop teasing me, Grub. Look at that. So here you go. So Woody's saying, yeah, was in hospital a week after second, heart skipping and pain. There you go.
So many people are.
So many people, right?
So many.
So many. You can't.
So check out this cognitive dissonance for a second. I'm just going to go right to my family.
Okay.
All right. My uncle was diagnosed. Okay, let's first of all back up. Him and my auntie are big COVIDians. They really, took it hook, line, and sinker. And they got all the boosters.
Yep. So they're what, 6 in?
Probably.
Yeah. Would you know they're up to, just so we put this in a context, I saw an advertisement by the Australian government to get your booster, which I think makes it number 9 now.
Wow.
Number 9.
Number 9. It's insane.
It's totally insane. So your uncle, what?
So suddenly diagnosed with turbo cancer, pancreatic cancer.
Yep.
So, and he has it. It's gone to his lung. That's terminal.
It's terminal. He's
okay.
gone.
So he's having a birthday party. He's had some chemo. Okay. My auntie says to the family, we have to have it outside because not everybody's vaccinated.
Oh, you're joking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people just don't get it. They don't make the connection point that very thing they took to prevent the fears of all their illness, and I know there's people out there that took this that didn't want to. So, I wanted to keep their job or whatever. But the people that really believed in it and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's insane to me. It's just, it's just insane that they can't draw the conclusion that all these people are dying.
Yeah.
Let's
As I said,
just
plus 40,000, right?
plus 40,000.
Plus 40,000.
Yeah.
So hang on, let's do the math live on air, right?
This is Australia.
This is Australia.
Okay, all right.
So if we do, 3 years, let's call it 1,000 days. Let's just do round numbers.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's just do round numbers. So we do 40,000 divided by 1,000 days. That's 40 people a day. Do we divide that by 24? 1.6 people an hour extra is dying every hour on the hour for the last 3 years.
All right. So do you hear the ambulance a lot?
Yeah, absolutely we do. Not so much anymore, but I also know, but I could tell you, I just understand that I know that the police are picking up heart attack victims.
Mhm.
The paramedics are being paid more money to not say anything about the fact that there's massive ambulances all the time, right? You know, do you know what was quite funny here in where we were living, because we're a little bit remote, we hear the sirens a bit, they're more random.
Mhm.
There'd be more sirens after each booster.
Wow.
Like it was actually,
Direct.
yeah, it's I just don't understand how we went back, and now we're attempting just to go back to normal.
And to think that this world is normal with these
Yeah.
increased sirens. So my coworker went to Japan last week. We're both on holiday.
Mhm.
And he had to get one shot. No, he didn't have to. His wife made him get the shot to travel.
Right.
So this time he's going to Japan and he has a heart attack in Japan.
Really?
Yeah. Never would have guessed this guy would ever have a heart attack, not heart attack material.
But see, that's the clot stuff.
Yeah.
That's the clots,
Yeah.
right? Blocking up the arteries, causing heart attack.
And he's the guy who told me when he got his, it was one of his top 5 worst things he's ever done.
Uh-huh.
He got shingles and he got blood clots as soon as he got it.
Uh-huh.
So everybody, this is so huge.
There you go. Constant sirens in Bundy. So Bundy is Bundaberg.
Okay.
It's about 4 or 5 hours north of here.
Oh yeah, notice people these days take longer to recover from a cold. It's killed the immune system.
Yeah,
totally. So that's exactly what I wanted to talk about with this, is that I'm seeing the fallout, the long-term fallout.
Yeah, they're calling it long COVID. It's not long COVID. It's
not
vaccine.
at all. Right.
There's no, I'm totally fine. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like there's no. The only people that have got long COVID are 4 jabs in.
Exactly.
At least.
It's just it's funny they come up with these names.
Mm.
Long COVID. So the thing is just I'm seeing the fallout of the people that's had it for a while.
Yeah.
Where there's those people that they got it and they got immediately a heart attack or immediately a stroke.
Yeah.
The long-term effects too is that the immune system gets worn down.
Yes.
To the point where you just die of the human cold, the common cold.
Mm. I mean,
native sarsaparilla works really, really well.
Yeah, that's good. Native sarsaparilla is good. That is true. Here's a question. All right. Understanding that we may be kicked off YouTube at any minute till we continue this conversation, but I don't care.
That's all right.
Just so we know, too, guys, one of my episodes another episode got taken down off YouTube the other day, and I figure that's me doing my job. Do you think it was deliberate?
Do you think it was
a designed thing to lower the immune system?
Yeah, I do. Because
I do as well.
What the mRNA does is it makes a copy of a sickness, puts it inside you, and that thing just continues to make copies. And when it does that, you're always going to keep getting COVID. Notice everybody that's got the shot keeps getting COVID.
Yes.
And they, you talk to them like, oh, I have COVID again.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just keep getting it.
Well, I think it was when they finally made Pfizer release the documents, it was 9 pages of side effects to prevent one illness.
Yeah.
That 99.7% of people survived.
Right.
And that never changed. Right. And these are the things that people forget, right? The average age of COVID death was still past the average age of life expectancy for the entire pandemic.
Right.
Right.
And there was it's just the whole PCR test was the real linchpin in the whole thing, because what they did is they were able to make any coronavirus ping the test.
Well, it's
to
also
have
cycle
COVID.
rates as well, right? You're only supposed to cycle a PCR test at 10 or 20
That's
cycles.
another one. Yeah, they had it on high cycle.
Yeah, like 50 or 100 cycles, and it's going to pick up anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it, but the guy that invented the PCR test said it was not for testing illness. He never tested it for that.
That's the big linchpin in the whole situation, is that he said it's not a test to test for a virus.
No.
So that means that and he was talking out about it, and he conveniently died in
2019,
October
I
of
think.
2019.
Yeah.
Right when they had
when they had the 20 whatever
what was that drill they had?
The
event 201.
Event 201.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, and this is the whole point, right? I mean, and that's what people forget as well. In October of 2019, they all got together and discussed what would happen if a coronavirus hit the world, and then 3 months later it happened.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, how do you have the plastic sheet, the plastic guards for Woolworths ready to go? How do you have 6 billion vaccines ready to go? Right?
The logistics of
exactly. I look at it from a logistical thing. Do you know the first time? Because like obviously, I think we all had an initial fear response, right? At the very start, it was like, okay, what is this? The second that a politician stood up and said, we're going to get to 0 cases, bullshit. And the reason I know it's bullshit is because I've worked in safety and logistics and mining and all these teaching for so long, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is no zero. There is no zero incident. There is no zero illness. There is nothing, and especially a respiratory type illness, especially working in remote locations in jungles of Papua New Guinea and the Philippines and Indonesia and all these places. There is no zero. If someone gets sick in those sorts of circumstances, chances are, if you haven't had that, especially like I've had some nasty colds and flus in Southeast Asia, nasty, because we didn't have any antibodies to fight it. Right. But there is no zero. There's never, ever going to be zero. And the fact they thought they could achieve that through locking us down. I mean, I was on a ride the other day, and here in Australia, so like where you are now, man, we had a rule you couldn't go more than 10 Ks from your house.
Yeah.
That was a rule for a while. Wherever you were, you couldn't go no more than 10 Ks from your house. And to the point where I know where if I ride out of my driveway down the rail trail, I know when I ride past it where the 10K marker is. It's like halfway on it, just along a fence line. It's near the end of a fence.
Okay.
And that was the 10K marker, right? And it's like, how did we let them do that? Right? The mass formation psychosis, I think that the poem that I wrote about it encapsulates it very well. I'll try to find that and post it again.
Didn't stop us.
Didn't know. No, well, the thing is, man, is that the only reason the reason it stopped is because we kept resisting. Did anyone notice that? As the protests grew, the restrictions wound back. Why? Because they'd pushed us to the point where they'd tested us enough. You know what I mean? Like that is the reality of the situation. Globally, if you think about it, the more the protests grew, and then ting, 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 let's go to war with Ukraine. Do you remember that in like 2022?
Yeah.
It was like COVID, Ukraine, and now nothing about anything.
I know. It just went like they flipped the switch on the
well, it's Orwell's 1984, man. You know what I mean? It's totally, that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's George Orwell all over again, right? Look, power to the people is right. I think the thing is, and Leumas did say that he's sees a lot more people on the same page down under, which is good compared to Hawaii. And I tell you what, I've run into a lot more people recently that we're pissed off. I mean, Woody said he got injured. I bet he's pissed off about that. And fair enough too, right? I know you would have done it to keep your job, man. And I understand that. I got lucky I found a job where I could work from home and I didn't get asked, right? But if I was going to lose the ability to keep food on my table, it would have been a conversation that I would have had to have. I don't believe I would have taken it because I saw the bullshit. It was such bullshit. I could see it. And, testing it. I was telling Leumas today, because we were down to local shops, where someone was arrested for not wearing a mask down there. put in handcuffs for trying to breathe the air.
Yeah. So how do we let this happen? That's the question that we keep coming back to.
I don't know, man.
Because
I don't know.
Because I thought people were more. I thought they were more feisty than that when these things.
There's so many people that it's quite fascinating that would verbally abuse me for years on social media. I haven't heard hide nor hear out of for years either now. Like since 2022, I don't hear anything from those people. But some of those people I deeply respected. Some of those people, like some of the people that had a go at me about resisting and not complying, was some of the people that taught me to resist and not comply.
Oh, so interesting.
You know what I mean? It's like these people that in my mind I used to look up to, and they're the ones that taught me to rail against the system. As soon as they were tested, they failed, right? Their first major test, it's like, oh no, we better just do everything they say we're going to need to do. It's like, what do you mean? You know? Like,
yeah. I couldn't get how people couldn't see through it. I couldn't get it.
I didn't understand it either.
So one of the things that I always like to bring up, and I bring it up a lot again and again, though, is just like, did some kind of weird frequency enter the earth in 2020? It's like the world hasn't been the same since.
No, it hasn't. Whatever. See, the thing is, like, if I think about 2019, right? The end of 2019, myself personally, I'd resolved a lot of things. I was achieving peace. I'd released a lot of my anger and, that need to fight as a man. And the podcast was an indie podcast that was tracking really well. You know what I mean? Like it was ding, 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 because there wasn't a lot of podcasts. 2020 buried our shows, didn't it really? Because every man and his dog got a podcast.
That's true.
But, my metrics were going up. Everything was cool. And I think the world was upon reflection, the world was in a place of awakening, right? Where we were beginning to see that, yeah, exactly, right? That's good, Grub. They are worried about ending established state sovereignty through populists. Exactly. I think everybody was really beginning to see at the end of 2019 that most of this stuff is bullshit, right? And, do you know what I remember about? I had this flashback on the highway, Woody, here in Australia. So like Victoria Bitter, 4X Bitter, beer was promoting vaccines.
Yeah.
Get back to the pub, the vax. Do you want to talk about cognitive dissonance? So we got a hardware store, Bunnings. You would have seen Bunnings, like the big green buildings, right? In Queensland, they were giving out a sausage and you would stand in a line in a Bunnings car park and get your vaccine.
Yeah.
Out of an esky.
The coaxing was insane.
But then the cognitive dissonance was there was multiple reports of people dropping in the line, right? Like get your jab, and while they're grabbing their sausage, they would collapse.
Right.
And then people would still like, what the? I just don't understand, man.
I don't either.
The first line of the poem was what I wanted to get to before, right? And I still sometimes think it, not as much as I used to. As I walk around today and look at the people I see, I can't help but wonder who would have hung me from a tree. Because that's the reality, right? 6 or 7 people out of 10 that you saw today, 3 years ago, would have been vehemently against your perception. Yeah. And probably 4 out of those 6 people would have aggressively tried to do something. Like that's what was actually going on down here, right? The Victorian police fired on unarmed citizens. Sure, rubber bullets, doesn't matter. They raised their rifles and fired on them, not once, but twice or 3 times. Right? I mean, what the fuck? Like
the people that work at these places, you'll notice like they got that little bit of power and they became the Karens and they became the people that run off the superiority like you give them a raise. Those are the people you give a raise at work and they get the big ego about it. These are the same people that gave these people a chance to be Nazis.
To be
today's Nazis.
Exactly. Well, if you can, it's like that's one of the look. I think everyone had that, Grub. Like a lot of people I don't talk to. But do you know
Right.
what's been cool? I think the wheat was weeded out from the chaff. You know what I mean? The good people rose to the top, and whoever didn't survive wasn't meant to.
Yeah, that's another way of looking at it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
the people that I surround myself with now, I know are true.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, there
Well,
was $1 million. There was $1 million competition in Australia.
Mm.
Get a vax and put your ticket in, you win $1 million.
There was joints for jabs. There was
donuts for jabs,
donuts for
burgers and
jabs.
chips for jabs. Yeah.
Yep. So this is something I want to plug before I forget. Is I did a show. It wasn't really my show. It was Black Pill Digest, and it was the beginning of it is worth the whole show. Shows the propaganda of getting the shot. It's a montage. I think it might have been put together by Max Egan actually, but it was a montage.
Oh yeah, and it's like it splits the screens, and
It just
it's all
shows
the
you
local news,
propaganda,
and
everything.
and it's the same word as
And it
same
makes
words
your
as well.
jaw just drop to the ground.
Uh-huh.
Like, I can't believe the coaxing they did.
And
Unbelievable.
yeah.
Yeah, so check it out. It's Sean McCann's Wake the Dead.
Mhm.
Sean has a Black Pill Digest show, and I did it with him and William Ramsey, and that was pretty good to revisit that subject. It was about last year.
No, not
Yeah.
not right now, Woody. Not right now, mate.
The Winnie Green stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, Triff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what the thing is too, man? Like I've had some. Do you know what I found as well? The people that saw through it, we've had a bit of a rough time trying to deal with ourselves. But do you know one of the things that does give me strength every now and again is if you didn't falter, if you did not give in, that means $1 trillion propaganda campaign did not work on you. So take strength from that.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
you
Be happy with yourself.
Yeah. Because even like the flashing light boards on the highways, have you had your vaccine? Have you had your vaccine? Like it was everywhere. I remember I'd actually speaking about Karens. Again, I was deep in the weeds. The reason I'm on Encounters Down Under is because I've been shadow banned in other places, right? And this bird got on after I posted the Pfizer documents, I think it was.
Yeah.
And in about 30 words, she said vaccinated 15 times. Now, neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, you know what that is?
Yeah.
You just keep saying the same word over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and that's vaccinated, 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 vaccinated. Like for me, one of the struggles that I've had is the cognitive dissonance, right? The fact that the same people that I saw 3 years ago we just don't talk about it. Like
it's Fight Club.
It's Fight Club, but it's but the other side of it is that collectively as a species, we all went through a massive collective trauma, and none of us have dealt with it at all.
Exactly. That's a very important point because it's just we've swept it under the carpet.
Yep.
So none of us have dealt with it, whether you were against it like we were, or you were completely believing it and you thought that the world was in a real pandemic.
Or you were coerced into getting it because you were going to lose your livelihood, right? I think there's definitely a section.
There's levels.
There's levels, right? You know, like, I mean, the other thing is too, right? Imagine if you got sick 4 of those things, you would have to live in a pretty weird place hoping you just didn't drop dead, yeah?
Yeah.
Or you're just not paying attention to it, I wonder.
Or just some health issue hasn't popped up in their life yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a matter of time. I'm seeing turbo cancers everywhere around me. People having heart attacks. My friend Seb messaged me a week ago and said that his friend's daughter, who's 30 years old, beautiful, just dropped dead from a heart attack.
Yep.
Things like that. Like it's almost commonplace now. I hear it. It's just everywhere around me. And I know it's not my imagination. And one other thing we should probably be careful with, though, is we can't blame every single thing.
And this is the problem, right? There is still certain
You've got to have a balance here.
Yeah. At the same time, though, how much of these other cancers and everything else that's happening. Because I saw here's an interesting statistics for you. You know, SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome.
Yeah.
In the 2 years, 2021, 2022, because of the lockdowns, most babies missed their jabs, their vaccines. Sudden infant death syndrome was practically zero for those 2 years.
Wow.
And the only difference is they didn't get their 6 month, you know what I mean? Their 6 month, 12 monthly vaccines. And sudden infant death syndrome was practically non-existent. We can't talk. That's another Fight Club. We can't talk about.
Club. But let's talk about it.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about these things. Why does everybody not want to talk about it? It's like,
how is it in the late 80s, early 90s, we went from having 2 or 3 vaccines in our entire lifetime to having upwards of, I think they give upwards of 50 to 60 to newborn babies. Newborns. They come out of the womb in Australia, in a Western country that does not have any of the, and they get 40 of them straight up.
Right. It's crazy.
For what?
But here's another thing too I always think about. Think about, you grew up in the 80s too. The punk rock, the bullies, the fights, the amount of physicality and stuff. Where did that all go? Maybe some of that's not very conscious or like loving, but like that tough, like that.
There was a
more masculine strain through society. Where did it all go? Like what happened to it by the time we hit COVID?
That's
like,
interesting.
Why weren't we having people just punching people? Wear your mask. Oh, fuck you. Just knock them right out. Right. Yeah. Why wasn't I seeing that? And I was like, I saw tough guys in line with their mask on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, and here's something. So what Woody's saying there is very fascinating as well. There's another Fight Club we don't talk about. That childhood vaccination has dropped dramatically in the last 3 years, because most people, like, let's say you got injured, like Woody did, his heart skipped a beat for a little while, probably very concerned. He obviously knows what happened. And the thing is, but you'd have to bring, Robert F. RFK into the picture here as well, because he wrote a book about Fauci, which has to do with AIDS and the vaccines and stuff.
Right.
And he has not been sued at all. So obviously what he said was true in that book.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, what? Plus 40,000 in Australia alone. Now that's just Australia. Across the board, over the world, the excess death rate is between 5 to 20%, depending on the population. And guess what? It depends on, Leumas, how much that population and how many vaccines they got. That's the only and that's on, you can just look it up. It's in the Bureau of Statistics across the planet. We're not talking about it. What about the tens of thousands of businesses that no longer exist now?
Right. No one's talking about it.
No one's talking about it. What about the suicide rate that exploded because we basically just took, again, tens of thousands of businesses, but who won? The corporations could still function, couldn't they? You know what I mean?
It's not talked about.
No, it's talked about.
Forget about it.
Yeah.
Society went on. It limped out of its stage where everybody was in a horrible state and went back to normal without examining what just happened. Again, I just have to say it, like the same thing over again, is that they shut down the entire world. When has that ever happened?
Ever.
And held everybody ransom until they got this vaccine. They wanted it in people. Like this has never happened. And the fact that we're dealing with a society, a
and it is a breach.
Society.
It is a basic breach of the Nuremberg Code. That's it. There's no way to look at it. You read the Nuremberg Code that was taken and created after World War II. What happened is a breach of the Nuremberg Code. There's no other way to look at it. Yeah. And that was supposed to never, ever happen again.
It's supposed to never happen again. They gave out a VA at school.
Was that the flu? Was that the flu one, mate? Was that because it's the same thing. Like when I was in mining, oil and gas, they used to make us get the flu shot. Every year I'd get deathly ill. Guess what? I don't really get sick. I get sick off the kids every now and again because kids bring stuff home from school.
Right.
However, I don't have that periodic sickness that I used to have. And what the only common denominator is I don't take that shit anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the Basel III, which says banks must have 50% real assets. That means they can print money, but they need assets.
Well, this is yeah. So basically, I mean, this is another one of the other fight clubs we can't talk about. The fact that, you know, it's like, you know, it's not that we're keeping score, but I think us conspiracy theorists are up to about 50-0 now, aren't we? Because what are they trying to do the world over? They're trying to get rid of cash. Why are they trying to get rid of cash? Because that whooping cough, really, bloody hell. Was there an outbreak there? I mean, this is any of that stuff, man. Just opt out of it at all times. Like, it's ridiculous. I can't even. But, you know, they're trying to get rid of cash the world over.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've seen it come in a lot.
And digital currency is going to replace that, a government-backed digital currency. So, you know, what maybe, you know, what Grub's sort of talking about is that the corporations come in through COVID, grabbed all the assets. They own all those assets under the old currency, but they're going to phase that old currency out. And then when they switch it over, they still have all the assets, right? I mean, the other fight club we can't talk about is the fact that BlackRock and Vanguard own the world.
Right. And no one cares.
And no one cares. Do you know what's even trickier about that? Is that BlackRock and Vanguard own the world, and they did it using our money. They took the superannuation or the retirement funds of all Western countries, used that money, leveraged it, and bought everything with it, and then made their money off our money. And no one cares.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. The world was told that UFOs and aliens exist, and nobody cares.
No one cares.
What kind of a world do we live in? Like, the world got jabbed with poison. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's apathy.
I think it's cognitive dissonance.
And cognitive dissonance too.
I think because, okay, so let's say I think the resistance was more than they thought. You're all right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What happened?
It's good. The bottle fell there. So it's,
is it spilling or is it
no?
okay?
It's good.
No, that's all right. As long as it's not spilling, we're good. You know, I don't. So okay, so let's Fight Club. We can't talk about the inflation, the fact that around the world everything's gone up 50%. Is it actually inflation? Because all the major corporations in the world have made record profits.
Right.
So is it actually inflation, or did they just jack the prices up to then put pressure on the middle class, which then stops the middle class from focusing on the fact that we got fucked over?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a psychological play. And where are all the politicians that used to, you know?
Well, you know, the Western countries are being systematically broken down.
Yes.
I mean, I think inflation's worldwide.
Yeah, it is. Well,
but
in inverted commas, inflation. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, but this is happening mainly in the Western countries. They're really putting pressure on everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the West is in their way. They're trying to completely destroy everything to do with it. The things you can't talk about, the other fight clubs.
Yeah, all the other fight clubs. Because it's not like there's, you know, in New Zealand this week, someone was arrested for posts on X or Twitter or Facebook. I can't remember which one it was. In Britain, they've arrested and jailed people for their thoughts that they have posted on social media. That is George Orwell stuff, man.
Absolutely, it is.
That is George Orwell stuff, right? But, you know, and the thing is, the weird thing is we can bring it back to the megalithic stuff, because there also seems to be a systematic destruction of the ancient civilization that once existed as well.
Right. We were just talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
So there is a definite cover-up. I covered in the documentary coming up. The cover-up's really important because it really shows us that they don't want us to know this magnificent past and what happened on this planet. For some reason, they want our reality scrubbed, and they want us to just be buying their institutions of society and the history they've already laid out for us.
Exactly. And again, what was scrubbed from the books post World War I and post World War II? because like the education system that we both grew up in was created post World War II.
Right. It's true.
It was created. That's
Mhm.
the doctrine, how we learned it, what we
Mhm.
learned. It was created
Yep.
post World War II.
Yep.
That's the
Everything is-
reality. Like, I mean, how do we? I think it comes back to what Woody said earlier, right? So it's power of the people. Yeah. How do we realize that we are the 99%? Because we are.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
what we're doing tonight is a product, man. We contacted each other through Instagram, through the general, however many years ago, and you're now sitting in the studio,
yeah.
right? We're from different worlds, but here we are connected. We have that with everybody, right? I mean, as a teacher, I see that all the time. I've surpassed in the last year 12,000 students, man. I've had every color, culture, creed, religion, variation of human you can think of. And I can get them all nodding along with the same idea. We are not that different. There is much more that brings us together than separates us.
Yeah.
How do we do that? How do we bring us together to see that and to stand together? Because the bottom line is, if we don't figure out a way to stand, they are going to take us into World War III. I don't know how else to put that. That is what's going to happen. It's not a if, it's a when.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
I think humans have to have more self-value.
Self-worth, yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't understand their worth.
Yeah.
And they don't understand that they're not free.
Yeah.
I think it's what it is people like I met you today in a very busy mall.
Yeah.
I hate malls and I hate normal civilization. I hate mainstream people, the mainstream mind, because these people go in this place. This is a Saturday.
Yeah.
They've worked all week, no doubt, to spend all their money in this very superficial place.
Yeah.
So these people are unfortunately the masses, and these are the ones that have to wake up to make this thing change.
Yes.
So these people are the hardest people to change because they don't understand their self-worth and they think human slavery is legitimate, and they don't understand that they're under human slavery. They
Yes.
don't understand that they're being manipulated. There's just so much they don't understand. So it's really a consciousness change we need on this planet. That's what it is. It has to be a consciousness change, because if it's not, it's just the change of, well, we could go to another violent like revolution kind of thing. And sometimes I kind of feel like there is a need for actual physical force, but in certain ways. But it doesn't need to be that if it was a consciousness change.
That's right.
And
I do think there's definitely been a shift in consciousness, right? I think there's many more people. Like as I was telling Leumas earlier, like through building the studio, I've had to lean on some people and talk to different people. And once I tell them, everyone's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I talk to them about the studio and the show, and I've got like 20 more listeners out of it because everyone's like, "Oh, that's cool, man. What's your show name?" You know what I mean? And so that's cool. However, it's more about, I think, look, Grub's right. We are individuals, but I do think the system makes us feel like we're individual as well, where I don't know that we are, man. Being a teacher and a trainer and doing that for the last sort of 10 years is really opened my eyes to the fact that, yes, we are individual, but there is a human set there's a human consciousness, I think. You know what I mean? There's a human understanding that is deeper, because as humans, just base level humans, and remembering too that I've worked across multiple countries that didn't speak English, yeah, but I found a connection with those guys. Do you know why I found a connection with those guys? Because they were human.
yeah,
It's the same set of values, man. You know what I mean? We all want to be loved. We all want to be happy. We all want to be challenged. We all want to. The human is the human, and I think we've lost sight of the fact that the human is the human, and it's through the distraction, right? So it's like, but then there's the dichotomy, isn't it? So here we are, connected across oceans, sitting here talking to the awesome people connected all over Australia. That's a fantastic thing that's allowing us to share our ideas.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, this tool is being used to manipulate and control us through
It's
algorithms.
such a double-edged sword,
and,
isn't it?
You know, I tell you what, look, we're approaching 2 hours, brother, so we might wrap it up pretty soon. I wanted to throw something at you because I want to get your thoughts on it, right?
Okay.
So AI, another Fight Club we can't talk about, right? If AI was sentient,
Yeah.
why would it tell us? If AI became sentient, would it even tell us that it was sentient? I don't think that
No,
it
it
would.
wouldn't. No. Yeah. It wouldn't.
No.
It would just be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if it's analyzing us, right, and it's discussing and seeing us, right, why would it tell us? That, man, that's great. Humanity over civilization. Can't that humanity be sacrificed for the sake of civilization?
Yeah,
That's-
you're saying some good stuff there, Grub. I keep meaning to say things, but I didn't want to lose my train of thought.
No, you're right, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, humanity over civilization. Can't humanity be sacrificed?
Yeah.
I think there's something to that, right? If we come back to the design of civilization, because me and Leumas were having a discussion because I picked him up. So for those that live in Queensland, I picked Leumas up at Chermside Shopping Centre, and that's just those in Queensland will know. Even people that aren't in Queensland know what Chermside Shopping Centre is. It's one of the major shopping centres, and it was insane the amount of cars and people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's say that a shop inside Chermside shopping centres, it's not unrealistic that a small shop in that shopping centre is $2,000-$3,000 a week rent. There's a shop in Chermside that just sells hats. You're telling me a shop in Chermside that just sells hats makes $3,000 a week plus the 2 or 3 people that are employed there that are on $500, $600, $700, $900 a week?
Right. How much is a hat? Like $30.
$30, yeah.
Yeah. $30 to pay that.
So you're selling 100 hats every week, or 2, 3, 4, 500 hats to justify that space and then like it's mayhem. Mayhem is a good point, Woody. It is mayhem. The problem is, man, is that where do we go, and what is the answer, and how do we? Because I think the reason so let's come back to it, right? I think the reason that the cognitive dissonance is so prominent is because it's so difficult to deal with we just encapsulated in 50 minutes 10 different Fight Clubs that we can't talk about, and we barely scratched the surface on any of them.
I know. Yeah. We could really flesh all those out. Those are all shows with notes and research.
Absolutely. They are all shows with notes and research.
Yeah.
Every single Fight Club we just talked about.
Yeah.
And it is deep and it is winding, but it's also been at play for a long time. Do you know what really tripped me out, right? If we go back to the Fight Clubs we can't talk about, I think it must have been the end of 21 or 22 where must have been 22, I think, where I opted out because I really realized that this plan has been in play since at least the late 1800s, if not before. Right, with the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds.
Oh, yeah.
That has been their plan, right? And then you zoom out and see that World War One was just cousins. It was a family tiff. Then they just wanted to test their new toys out.
And they created the League of Nations from it.
Yeah, and then they created the UN, which
then that was World War II created the UN, the CIA. A lot of things came out of that. Project Paperclip.
Yeah. It's this thing that we're dealing with right now has been in play for over 100 years, right?
Yeah.
Look, I think know thyself. I think that's really good, right? I think know thyself is actually a really good thing. What else can you do, right? Apart from know thyself.
It's like, I guess if we were to, like, a lot of people that do this work that we do, maybe not, like, we're not really aiming to quite do this, but a lot of people that do the shows and just talk about the whole conspiratorial thing and like trying to wake people up and stuff. In order for it to really work, it's got to really go. I mean, maybe it is working. I don't know. Maybe people are waking up.
I think they are, man. Honestly, there's days that I don't think that they are, but my experience building the studio and talking to people and venturing out and having interactions and like the awesome people that have joined us here tonight. I think that more and more and more, yes, they are. The problem is that, is it going to be enough? Because it may not be. Like if they push us into World War III and they pull that button or push that button, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's at the moment it's a close run thing, right? I think one of the other stanzas in the poem, I'm just trying to remember it. It's yes, the dark is rising. However, the light must rise to meet it. We must stand together as one. It's the only way we can beat it. I think that's not exactly, but it's along those lines, right? It's like, you want to come back to the UFO stuff, the UAP stuff, the ancient civilization stuff. I think it's the dark versus the light, man. I think you come back to the cover up, all that sort of stuff. I think there's a more humanistic, centric sect of energy and people and beings that exist on this planet, and they've been battling against these psychopaths that all seem to be pedophiles as well. I mean, what the fuck is that about? You know what I mean? Like another Fight Club we can't talk about, right?
Yeah.
Where's the Epstein list?
The Epstein list, yeah. With Diddy as well, right?
Yeah. Diddy liked a Diddy.
He did.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? Because I've got a few mates that are into that rap stuff. I'm not really into that. I suppose you probably know a bit more than me, but a couple of the boys that I know that were really into that, I'm like, did we know that Diddy liked a Diddy? Or and apparently there was rumors that Diddy was a bit of a diddler. Apparently,
yeah, maybe he was.
Yeah,
probably was.
Yeah. Or did he? But the thing is, or did he know too much, and they just crushed him because he was going to bring them out? You know what I mean? We can't talk about the Fight Club that Ellen's backdrop of her TV show looked like Epstein Island. We can't talk about that. I don't want to talk about the Fight Club.
And we can't talk about the Fight Club of chemtrails either.
No, we can't talk about that Fight Club. And the fact that here in Australia they admitted that we're using chemtrails, and now we can't talk about it.
No. Right? Weather modification, all this stuff is just like people should be shouting from their rooftops.
Yeah.
And it's not important to them. I don't know. It's like,
I don't know.
And that's why we're in the state that we're in, is because these things aren't important for them to get off their chair and actually do something about it.
Yeah.
What was the cloth the boy was wearing?
I will definitely listen to that episode. Woody did send me that link, man. I'll put it on the top of the list. Look, we breached 2 hours, so let's wrap it up, man. The problem is, dude, is that we're both podcasters, so if we don't wrap it up, we'll be sitting here at 2 o'clock in the morning if we continue to have this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could keep going, but I guess we should recap what we've talked about today, maybe just a little bit.
Yeah. Where do you want to start?
Well, I mean, with the megalithic stuff, I think what it comes down to is there's obviously a cover up of our ancient past, and we've talked about it before.
Yes.
We've talked about this cover up. It's important to think about why they don't want us to know about what happened on this planet and our ancient origins, and this whole Anunnaki thing. I mean, there's some of it sounds ridiculous at times, but then again, it's like those are the first writings on Earth.
Yeah.
Why was it so important?
Yeah.
So
look, man, and this is the whole point, right? There is a cover up. I think so just so everybody understands, tomorrow I'm taking Leumas to the polygonal masonry walls in Gympie. We're going to the imprint at Ginniburra. We're going to do some filming and some field work as part of the documentary. And there's secrets in the past. I gave you a quote for the documentary, and I channeled something that night. It was really good. I won't be able to repeat it, but it was something like, there's secrets in the past that can help us in the present that affect our future.
It's in there.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah, it's something like that. And it's like, I think the thing is with this megalithic stuff is because it is all over the planet, okay? Because it is all over the planet, that means that this megalithic society was global, which means we were one, right? Because you find it on every single continent, in every single country, doesn't matter.
Right. and that just should be to plug what we did before when we went over the spots in the South Pacific and Australia.
Yeah,
where
in a
people
previous
don't really
episode. Yeah,
connect to this global thing.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And
so it's all over.
all over,
Yeah.
right? I think I've read the list out a few times before, and I think I might have read the list out on that episode where it's like every single continent and country that you can think of, there is megalithic stuff that is known there, right?
Mhm.
Or was it entities, Grub, or was it a civilization? Was it both? Was it interdimensional? Were we dealing with psychedelics? We want to talk about megalith stuff. We want to get a little bit crazy. What are we talking about? Vibration, frequency, and energy machines to move giant blocks around? It wasn't cranes. You know what I mean? It wasn't mechanical objects that made these blocks to be able to place. We don't know, right? I think that was when we were sitting down at the lake today. It's like the one thing that we're sure of. We're going to wax lyrical after we turn the mics off for whoever, late into the night, I'd say. But we understand that we don't know, don't we? You know what I mean? 'Cause we don't know. We don't know. We don't know.
And I would put caution to those that say they do know.
I never trust anyone that says they know.
No.
I don't, right? Or I know, or I think I know, right? That's okay. But I know if you have someone who's vehemently defending a certain point of view, that's a red flag to me, because it's like, hang on a minute, you don't know, right? Because I'm 200 and something episodes in, you're 200 and something episodes in, plus however many thousands of hours of research behind the scenes. We're still not sure.
No.
I don't know who built them. I don't know why they built them. I've got an idea. I've got various ideas, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Tomlinson, late arrival. Oh, you might have been listening in the background. How are you, man? Recent discovery that the first indigenous in Australia interbred with a human species of an unknown origin. Not a surprise. Isn't that the Palladian story? You know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about here? Actually, speaking of species of unknown origin, did you see that they have there was a couple of recent trips to South America? I can't remember who. It's all part of the groups on Facebook and stuff. But long story short, half of the Paracas skulls that used to be on display in Peru are gone.
Are they?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're not on display in the museum anymore.
Interesting.
Why? I mean, that's the other one that no one talks about, the Paracas skulls.
Right.
They are not bound skulls. They are different skulls. They're larger skulls. They're actually bigger in a brain capacity than us.
Right.
They are a different species of hominid.
They are.
End of story.
They've been tested. I had Brian Forster on my show.
Yes. Yeah.
He
actually, it might have been Brian Forster that was saying that. He went to one of the museums in Peru where he used to go to study the Paracas skulls, and a heap of the best ones are missing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you say unknown, that's an interesting there, Matt. Can you send me, if you find that article, man, send that through, because that's fascinating, because again, I'm deep into this research. I haven't heard that. I didn't see that one pop up, because there's so much, there's so much. But I think you're right. The megalithic stuff is global. There is an active cover up, whether it be subconsciously. I think there's some consciously, and I think there's subconsciously through whatever. But I'm really curious to see how that documentary comes out, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to being a part of it tomorrow. We're going to do some filming, and we'll do some stuff, man. It's going to be very cool.
It's going to be good. It's going to be new stuff too.
Yeah.
So I'll just say it that there's possibly 4 pyramids in Hawaii that have never before been captured on camera. So
yeah, right. And you've looked at 2 so far.
2, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the other 2 you're going to do in October.
Yeah, big adventure in October.
Yeah, well, look, we an independent analysis of the Gosford glyphs and the work that we did down there is still ongoing. I'm going to try and I'll get some of the photos and some of the stuff through. Hopefully, we can get that in the documentary as well.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Because I think there's larger pictures here that need to start to be drawn together. And look, I still fully believe there's stone circles hiding in northern New South Wales. I
guarantee it.
I reckon there really is, especially around the Mullumbimby, Byron Bay region. We just need some. We are on Patreon, But no, listen, man, it's been awesome, dude. Yeah, the megalithic stuff again. We could start and keep going.
Well, that's the heart and soul. That's like that's the happy stuff.
Absolutely,
Like,
man. That's our passion,
you're
right?
right,
That's
yeah.
our passion. That mystery is the thing that actually keeps us both going, the thing that connects us and
Yeah.
has connected us for many years. And
Yeah.
we're going to continue that research. I'm super stoked to go on a field trip with you tomorrow. We're going to take the field kit and the drone, and
Mhm.
I'm going to take a mold of the imprint, and all that sort of stuff as well. That'll be cool. So
And, yeah, it's gonna be cool. And then so we get then so that's the stuff we like to do right there. That's what I always like to talk about with people. Um, and you got to have a little fun with this, because the other side of the conversation we had today was the cognitive dissonance, and the people that are getting taking the fallout from the shot,
yeah,
and how much of a fight club that is, that nobody's talking about it, and just the magnitude of what happened here on Earth in 2020, that the entire world shut down like never before, and the amount of coercion and pressure to get this experiment. I mean, and we're living in a world that has just never dealt with it.
I tell you what, here's something pretty cool. Before we come, let's pause that, because Mr. Tomlinson just sent me the article he's talking about. Let's read it.
Okay.
Aboriginal Australians Pacific Islanders carry DNA from an unknown human species, research analysts suggest. Now, this is from 2016. People from Papua New Guinea and Northeast Australia carry.
Okay, yeah, this is what we're talking about, Melanesians.
Yeah. Small amounts of DNA in unidentified extinct human species, a new research analysis has suggested. The analysis suggests that DNA is unlikely to come from Neanderthals or Denisovans, but from a third extinct hominid previously unknown to archaeologists. Statistical geneticist Ryan Bolender and his team investigated the percentage of extinct hominid DNA in modern humans. They found discrepancies in previous analysis that were found interbreeding between Neanderthals and Denisovans, which we knew about that, was not the whole story in our ancestors' genetic makeup. Presented his analysis to the American Society of Human Genetics in Canada, saying that scientists are either missing a population or misunderstanding something about the relationships. So basically, Europeans and Chinese carry about 2.8% of Neanderthal. Europeans have no Denisovan ancestry, but Chinese people have 0.1. Modern populations South Pacific, including Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, Fiji, PNG, New Caledonia, West Papua, Maluku, have 2.74% of Neanderthal. But there's 3 to 6% missing somewhere. And that doesn't surprise me, right? That doesn't surprise me. I don't think we have no idea. It's like, Homo sapiens sapien. Like, we are the second incarnation of the Homo sapien at the very least.
At the very least, yeah.
At the very least. I mean, it's, so according to theory, Neanderthals left Africa about 300,000 years ago. Yeah.
This world was so many more things: giants, elongated skulls, different ethnic origin, different DNA. It was a pretty crazy place at one time. People living thousands of years. All that. These demigods, all that. It's just like this world was scrubbed at one point from that entire.
I think more than once. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think more than once. I think one of the issues we're dealing with, and we did speak about this to cover that off as well, is that timeline. I think the timeline is skewed. I think we're trying to lump everything in one timeline, but I think we're maybe looking at 3 or 4 incarnations, right? What if the 33 symbols that govern the planet everywhere are not just, they're ancient, like hundreds of thousands of years ancient.
Right.
I mean, there's something I saw the other day that I haven't verified, but it's like there's a 3-pronged dinosaur footprint, and next to it is what looks to be a human footprint, a hominid footprint. So it's like, hang on a minute. Did they exist at the same time? Now, technically, there's footprints in Turkey or somewhere in the Mediterranean, hominid 5-toed footprints that they estimate to be 5 million years old. I mean, what do you do with that? That's a piece of oopart, right? That's an out of place artifact. But I think at the last time I looked at it, there was 75,000 pieces of oopart.
Interesting.
Right? That vary from technological to, like, actually, you talk about the Denisovans, the cave that they found the Denisovans in. They found onyx beads in the cave with the Denisovans that hadn't been touched in, thousands of years, supposedly, with a hole drilled straight through them.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah. How do you do that?
I don't know.
Yeah. Hold on. I want to talk about the timeline. I got to use the restroom real quick.
Yeah, you can go, man. I can.
Fill him in a little bit. We'll come back.
Yeah, you're right, mate.
We're
live. We're live. So if you well, that's what I was trying to wrap it up because I need to do.
Oh, you did too.
Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah. Look, we've been in the chair for over 2 hours. So, look, man. I think the thing is, dude, is that the problem with us, we're going to record at least one more episode tomorrow.
Yeah.
On our journey, so we can cover off some stuff tomorrow. I think because the timeline. Put a pin on that. Who's taking Chant? Let's do a timeline episode as well. But
there's at least 4 pins.
There's at least 4 pins. Okay. At least 4 pins. But I think, brother, let's finish with something positive. Instead of recapping, let's finish with the positive. Yes, we are all individual, but the thing that keeps us common is human. Yes, we were fucked with. However, I think it can be through any crisis and can bring us together instead of tearing us apart. And I think maybe that's where we need to focus, and that's where we need to leave it for tonight. And the megalithic mystery, it's ongoing, and we're going to continue to try and unlock the code to chant it down.
Yeah.
And we'll find a way forward. But look, I want to spend a whole episode on timelines. So
let's do it again. We already started it once.
Yeah, we did start it once.
Yeah.
So, mate, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you for having me.
No worries. Yeah. First episode in the new studio. This studio doesn't have a name yet. Hey, thank you very much to everybody that paid attention.
Yeah, thanks for joining in, everyone.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. That was really cool. I really appreciate doing these things. Look after yourselves. Thanks again, Leumas. Good to see you, Grub, Matt, Woody, other Woody. We've got 2 Woodies. So Matt Tomlinson is Woody, but the other one's Clinton Wood. So Mr. Tomlinson, Mr. Wood, thanks. I can't remember everyone else that had jumped in, but
yeah.
Awesome, guys. Take care. Thank you very much. UTC3 will be back soon. Chant it down. We'll be releasing episodes in the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
Anything else?
I guess that's it. It's just great to be down under, and thanks, guys, for tuning in. Look forward to more shows, and of course I'll be releasing the documentary.
Yeah, make sure we come back on. We'll do a documentary release. Maybe we go live here down under, and we
do that.
Yeah, we'll figure that out, man. Yep. All right, bud. Thank you very much, guys. Cheers. Take care, Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
See ya.